Hello, Pod Smashers of the Internet, and welcome to another episode of Where Gaming Goes to Grab a Beer.
Did you hear that time?
I did not hear yours.
Oh, dagnabbit, NVIDIA.
We are your hosts.
Penguin and Termite. I'm Penguin.
I am Termite, and we are a weekly video game podcast smashing together ideas that you care about with video games.
That's right, and tonight we're picking up where we left off on our Soul in the Console series. We went through Sega's stuff, we went through Microsoft stuff, so now we are doing Nintendo, but we are focusing this round on the handhelds, and we did Game Boy a few months ago, and so now we're doing Game Boy Advance, GBA, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to go through kind of like its history, its hardware, and kind of what made it an awesome console. And then we'll get to all that and more. But first, we are gaming goes to grab a beer. So what do you drink on tonight?
I am drinking 21st Amendment Brewery's Hell or High Watermelon Wheat Beer, brewed with watermelons. You've had this with me at cookouts in the past.
Yeah,
yep, it's a staple in our household. Yeah, classic. It's just summer hot. It's not really summer yet, but we've had hot days. And my wife came home with this, like 6-pack. I just wanted it. I'm like, sweet, I will take one for the podcast. Here I am.
Fantastic.
It's got a little bit of watermelon flavor, a little sweetness. The wheat beer is definitely forward, just like a Blue Moon or any of those other wheat beers you might drink. And it's good. Balanced and smooth.
Awesome. So this is a redemption story. Last time I got an IPA for this podcast was a few weeks ago. I got like a red IPA or something, and I was thrown off by the red. Yeah, Red Zeppelin
from Blue Mountain.
Called.
Yep.
And I regretted it.
Yeah.
So I had also in that same batch grabbed this IPA and was dragging my feet on it because I was worried I was going to regret it. But the reason I grabbed this IPA is because this place makes no junk. It is Goose Island's Next Coast IPA. It just said Goose Island Beer Company. I was like, wait, what? So Next Coast IPA, it is much. I mean, I don't even barely taste the hops. I do taste it a little bit. It's got a little bit of that bitter backwash, but it's mostly like the tropical and fruity notes on this thing. I don't know. Does it have a description? It just says tropical, fruity, juicy hops or whatever. And yeah, it's a good description of it because it's pretty simple and delightful. 7% alcohol. So I will either be feeling really good or really crappy later. By that, I mean, every time I've had one of these like stronger beer, if I have like 2 7% beers, then I'm feeling great all night. It's good. And then I'll fall asleep or whatever. But if I have one these days, for some reason, man, I've been getting the most killer headaches by bedtime. It's crazy. So take one for the team. It's a good one.
Beer Advocate says it's 7%, but totally crushable. It's not quite like any other IPA you've had. Big, bracing, piney hop flavors meet a tropical bouquet of nugget, citra, and mosaic hops. There's a balanced bitterness that blends seamlessly into the light to medium body. Sip it or rip it. We're not your mom.
Sip it or rip it. That's good. I like that.
I guess that means you can surf it or, shotgun it.
All right. Hey, I want to do a little tiny announcement, possible plug. I don't have a link yet or anything because I don't know where this is happening. It's happening, I think, on Twitch. But I have joined in my current Dungeons and Dragons frenzy, fervor, whatever you might call it. I wanted to get more of the player experience as I was looking to learn how to DM a little bit more, and I want to try to get more from your guys' point of view, and just so I think it will make me a better DM all in all. I basically posted it on Reddit, though, knowing that like none of my friends who know how to DM were going to necessarily be available to like, take me in as a stray. So I went to the LFG subreddit, which is where you can look for tabletop groups. And I posted my story, basically. I said, hey, I'm looking to DM, but I want to kind of apprentice under someone. And I got reached out to by a guy on Discord who said that he was planning to do a streamed game.
Yeah.
And I said, that sounds right up my alley, right? I am a natural performer. I do a podcast. That sounds like a lot of fun. So again, like I said, I wanted to kind of announce it here and get people excited about it. It's probably started by the time this airs, but I don't have a link yet. I'm meeting with the team tomorrow to come up with all those details. So just pay attention to, I will have linked it though, for sure, in like Discord or something by the time this goes live. So we'll post about it too. So you get to see me play Dungeons & Dragons. I asked them if they were okay with guests. So if you are interested and want to play sometime, then Penguin and Termite can pillage the countryside or whatever. And it should be fun. It should be a
Sounds awesome.
Fun thing. So hopefully if our players want to see me in
Twitch.tv/
something or other. We don't know yet. I don't know. We don't think we even have a name for the group yet. So it's still very nascent, but it's like starting soon. Like it's like we're going to start our first. Tuesdays nights is going to be when the stream goes live. So just keep an eye out for that. But we haven't even like tomorrow we're meeting for the first not meeting for the first time. We did session 0 to talk characters and stuff, but now we're going to meet tomorrow to do technology, right? To like get together and monkey with tech. I might ironically be one of the more experienced content creators in the group, which is fun.
As far as Twitch and stuff.
They're really lucky they got me, right? Yeah. So we're gonna do that. So I'll have links hopefully on social media and stuff by then. But I wanted to kind of announce that because I'm really excited about it. And it'll be a chance for our listeners to see me make content that's kind of not what we typically do here, and should be me a little bit more in my element, I guess, right? Because it's still nerdy, but it's also like performative in a way. I'm playing a bard to hopefully no one's surprised. I realized that if we were streaming this, I would want to be as entertaining as possible. And I figured that meant trying to pick a character whose personality was as close to my own as possible. And so, a bard was a natural fit for me. So it should be fun. I plan on being really entertaining, guys. By that, I mean like my character can like insult people and do damage to them. So I have a list of insults put together. It'll not be family friendly, for the record. Just throwing that out there. Not family friendly show. And then I have I'm a bard, so I sing to cast my spells. So I have a list of songs that in this world will be totally original, 100% creations of my character's mind, and not just me, Dan Grathwall, singing pop songs. Pop, rock and roll, a little bit of metal in there, some Tenacious D I think I'm going to throw out. I mean, literally, I don't need a microphone. My voice is effing powerful. So that's going to come out. So it'll be, I'm going to ham it up a lot, and it should be a lot of fun. So check it out. Awesome. Like I said, just pay attention. Keep a weather eye on the horizon. And by horizon, I mean Discord and social media. Hey, you want to share links to that so people can find it if it's live now?
Our own show or their new show? Your new show?
Our social media links. So they can go to our social media to find my new show.
Nice.
And also anything else about us.
Watch Penguin embarrass himself in front of everyone. Not really. He's actually going to be great and perfectly fine in his element over at 80bitpodsmash.com, 80bitpodsmash.com. That's our landing website with links to all of our social media outlets, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, Twitter, and our Discord. So you can jump into our community chat and you can find more folks with which to watch Penguin play D&D. So go ahead and do that. And if you are coming by way of YouTube, or you find us on Twitch, or you are listening to Penguin play his D&D game on his new Twitch channel, and you want to know more about us and our podcast, we have a weekly podcast that goes live every single Monday at midnight, and there's links to all of those podcast platforms also at the same site. Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, etc. are all there. 80bitpodsmash.com.
Yay! Check us out. Yeah, I to be embarrassed would imply that I feel embarrassment.
Right.
And though that is entirely possible that it might
that's
happen, I generally, I feel embarrassed. Everybody feels embarrassed. Like I would be lying if I pretended like I never feel embarrassment. But my threshold for embarrassment, I think, is a lot higher than most people's. Yep. So there also needs to be like I don't know, people need to be like actively laughing and making fun of me, and I have to be able to hear it, I think, to feel embarrassed. And I don't think that that's going to be right. Like there might be people like in chat, but I'll be so focused on like my character sheet and stuff that I highly doubt that I'll even notice, right? Until later or whatever. So there's a chance that I feel embarrassed later if I become a meme, I guess. Hopefully I don't become a meme. That would suck, guys.
It would.
Other than that,
it would not be cool.
Other than that, it's fine. I don't think I'll be embarrassed, but cool. Well, did you want to talk about something before we launch into our segments?
I don't think so. Other than, no, I think I've got my favorite things lined up.
Well, new content and new shows featuring one or both of us is our favorite thing, but
doing this podcast is our favorite thing.
And 80-bit Pod Smash is our favorite thing.
Hey, I reverted. I went back. What do you call that? A regression. I regressed.
Regressed. Yep, you are
So
not
old
as
habits.
progressive as you like to think.
Hey, can't even change the lyrics of a song. Womp
That
womp.
you sing every week and have been singing one way for like 2 years, 3 years. Gosh.
Yep, throw a change in there and it's all done.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
Well, what's your favorite thing then? I just talked
I
about my
already
Switch
talked about a night that we played D&D as a favorite thing, so that was pretty awesome. We did that again, and it was great. But this time, I'm going to switch it up a little bit and something different
Sure.
that we did this weekend. Friday, May 7th, was Free Comic Book Day, something that has been nationally done for years, apparently, where comic book publishers put out issues of their comics specifically to give away. They're emblazoned on the top, Free Comic Book Day, and comic book stores, libraries, like etc., will have them in their stores and invite you to come in and grab free comics. So I took my son, and some neighborhood kids also met us there at both the library and then the comic book store to grab a bunch of free comics. And I didn't know how much cool stuff would be free, and you would really, really, really appreciate some of it. There's an adult section, which I don't know why it's adult other than violent so far, because I haven't read them. No, it's just like we're kid friendly.
I would imagine it's like The Boys, for example, right? That would fall under what
Yeah, it was. Actually, they had an issue of The Boys, yeah. Yep.
Nice.
So I grabbed from the adult section a comic of Bloodborne. Who knew?
Yeah, I knew there. I did know there was a comic for it, but
yeah,
I haven't read it. But the artwork from it looks so freaking awesome.
Yeah, I've got an issue of that here. Whatever snippet they give you for the free version of their comic. I grabbed a comic of Gloomhaven, which I didn't know was a comic
I didn't know
book.
It was a comic. Yeah, cool.
Also, Critical Role's name is on the front of this one, so I grabbed it. It's called The Mighty Nine Origins.
The Mighty Nine, yeah.
Nine.
That's their
I said nine, yeah.
most recent group, I think. So like they started with Vox Machina, which was the name of the group of characters. Their guild
the
or
Mighty
whatever.
Nine.
And so the Mighty Nine, it takes place in the same world. I don't know if it's all the same characters or some of the same characters. It's D&D, right? So I'm assuming some of their characters died at some point. So like the Mighty Nine might be like a mix match of characters that are still alive. I don't know. I need to check it out. I want to check out Critical Role so bad. You still need to watch Vox Machina. I think you'll appreciate it a lot more. Heck, it might actually get your wife across the edge to play the character that I've been working on for her. That character that's right now an NPC that's really involved in your character's life. I'm like, just slot your wife right in that character. I've got the character sheet and everything made already. It's great.
Nice. So, this issue of the Mighty Nine also features The Witcher, so there's a crossover. Geralt of Rivia.
Oh, that's cool. Awesome.
Yeah. And I grabbed some
the DM for that designed a homebrewed class. I think I've talked to you about it before.
Yeah.
One of the subclasses for that class is literally The Witcher. I mean, it's called the Order of Mutants, and it's about like drinking. They are like drinking poisons and stuff. So now that I know there was a crossover, I fully believe that he did that for that exact reason, to make that
I would probably
work.
And then there's another kind of like satirical comic that's D&D related called Dungeon is Back. And that's not
nice.
I've never heard of it. I don't know if it's not themed by anything.
Here's a little crossover that I think our listeners will appreciate. Our dungeon master in this new group that I'm running with, currently unnamed, he was trying to think of names for the show or for something. Like I don't know if it was earlier before or if this was with our group or not. But he said that one of the names he considered was, he was like, oh, I know, we could call it Enter the Dungeon. And he's like, let me just Google that real quick to make sure there's nothing else of that same name. And so, of course, the very first thing was Enter the Gungeon. Yep. And he was like, I didn't even know that was a thing. And like me and the rest of the guys were like, yeah, that's a really good game, actually. It's really fun.
We streamed it, you and I, on your couch.
I didn't even know. Exactly. I was like, yeah, people would be really confused if it was Enter the Dungeon. People go Google Enter the Dungeon Penguin and then probably see our live stream Enter the Gungeon.
That'd be sweet. And the last thing I actually purchased on Free Comic Book Day is a trade paperback of Miles Morales' Ultimate End, which is an entry point into the Marvel Ultimate Universe, where Miles Morales was kind of introduced and a storyline that ends. Obviously, it's all kind of self-contained. But
I actually started the Ultimate Spider-Man. Like I had like there was a compendium, whatever you call it, full collection of them.
Yeah,
a buddy of mine lent me that back way back in high school, man. And I freaking loved it. It was so actually like the Ultimate better than the Ultimate line.
Oh, really?
Than the regular ones. Yeah.
So I'm excited to read a little Miles Morales backstory. I don't know anything about him other than the PlayStation game and the Spider-Verse
everything from
movie,
that is ripped pretty much exactly from that. Like that story hasn't changed much. And that story's changed about as many times as Peter Parker's actual backstory in 20 years or something. So,
yeah,
cool. All right, awesome. Well,
So
I
comic
think
books, that's my favorite thing.
yeah, comic books, nice. My favorite thing is probably D&D related because yeah, I spent the
It's all
whole
consuming in
freaking
your life
week.
right now.
It was the whole freaking week I spent like just preparing for that campaign. You probably noticed, or all of you certainly noticed, I was like actually I came in with a lot of stress to that game that was independent of the actual game itself, though
You had
there
a
was
lot
a little
going
bit
on in your
for the
house.
game. It was too much and it was too many changes at last minute, right? Like Macy, my wife, had told me multiple times, like, it's okay. Like, so my mother-in-law is coming. My mother-in-law, her mother, was coming for the weekend for Mother's Day. And at first I was like, oh, wait, we got D&D. How is that going to work? And she was like, it's fine. She's going to stay the night at my sister's house. And I was like, awesome, sweet, cool. I can be in a good headspace for that. And I don't have to like prepare a lot of stuff ahead of time. And then last minute, my niece got a fever. And so my mother-in-law was like, just kidding,
Oh,
she's
that's what
staying
happened.
here tonight. And
Yeah.
so like so then we had to like clean the house. We were like frantically trying to clean the house last minute. And it was just like,
Yep.
So, and I was like, I can't do everything, but I have to do everything. I have to prepare for the game and do all this. And I had a last minute addition to the party. So I was trying to like get his details and he was kind of late on things. And I was like, so it was a lot all at once. And it was not the headspace I wanted to be in when we started, but you know, the show must go on. So I made it happen. And I think it turned out pretty well.
We had a blast.
I think it was
At least
fun.
I did.
So
I guess I can only speak for myself.
I had fun. I eventually settled in and was better, less stressed. But
yeah.
there was a while I was like, and like technology wasn't working. So, but I figured that all out later. But I will say I'll pivot though and just say aside from D&D, because you guys are probably sick of me talking about it. The few times this week that I did get to play Mass Effect, I had a really good time. It was nice to kind of like, again, like no fantasy, no RP. Well, it's an RPG, but it's like biotics and technology and guns. I was like, sci-fi, a good detox from my fantasy world right now. So that's what's been, yeah, it's getting to I've finally gotten to a part in the story where I'm invested right now. So hopefully they don't ruin it by the time I end. But like, I got to like meet up with a character that's been in your party in all the games. And she's somehow even stronger in this one, I think, than she was in the other ones. So like, I'm like, well, now I know that I'm using the same party that I ended up using in the first two games anyways, because she's awesome. And the other person I usually pair her with is awesome too. So I was like, all right, well, here we go. Garrus and Tali again. Here we go. So, and they're the only ones who have also been in the group for all the games too. So it's like, all right, well, Garrus and Tali, that's my party again for the third game in a row. Just like everybody else who has ever played Mass Effect probably plays as Garrus and Tali.
I haven't played yet, so I don't know.
Yeah, I know. That's for all of the Mass Effect fans out there. But
yeah,
cool. All right. Well, that'll do that. That leads us, I guess, to our last and final segment. It's been a while since we've done DLC. DLC stands for downloadable content, and it is a segment of our show where we have a conversation that you wouldn't normally have about video games. And this one's going to be pulled out of my butt here, but we just had Mother's Day. So I'm going to ask pick a video game character, any video game character that's not Solid Snake.
Right now?
Yeah, do it in your head. Yeah.
Oh.
While he's picking that, DLC is a segment of our show where it's like, I think I said this, conversation you wouldn't have. What we're doing here is this is not prepared ahead of time. This is all improvised on the spot. I don't know what he's going to pick right now, so I don't know how to talk about what we're going to talk about. So what, video game character. Go.
I feel like I do pick the same characters all the time.
Yeah, think outside the box.
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm looking
maybe
for inspiration.
Do you want me to give you like a restriction here? Do you want me to give you like a little like pick characters from blank?
That could help.
Sure. Pick characters from pick characters from a non-Square Enix JRPG.
Ooh. Aha. Claude from Star Ocean, the second story from PlayStation 1. My
Fantastic.
retro
good choice.
Japanese RPG fans of the show will appreciate and know exactly who that is. If you don't, I apologize. Star Ocean is an RPG series made by Enix back on the PlayStation, and even prior to that, I think there was a Super Nintendo entry, but Claude, main character. So
well, this is then going to be on you to fill in details here. What would Claude do for his mother on Mother's Day?
Oh my.
What gift would he get? Where would he take her for dinner?
See, folks,
And
this is the other side of the coin. You pick a very obscure character that's not well known, and I have no clue what his personality is. I have no clue what his decisions are. It's been way too long since I played. I just remember it was awesome. So,
do you want another? Do you want another pick then? Do you want to pull something a little different now that you know the prompt? It's not quite as good, but you can do another pick, or you could try your best to dig up info about Claude or dig up thoughts about Claude.
Oh my. Ooh. Okay, I've got another answer because that's good.
Okay,
So let me look this up real quick because I gotta get his name.
If you want, we could like re-edit it, and I can pretend like
it's
you're
fine.
It for the
we're way ahead of schedule, so we're good.
It's true, we are.
Tone. Toan. Tone. A boy who is given magical stone in Dark Cloud for PS2.
Oh,
he's the main character.
I didn't play Dark Cloud Dark Cloud 1?
Yeah, for PS2.
Yeah, okay, yeah, okay.
I don't know when you played it.
I think that Tone would I just forgot his name. Good lord. I
me
probably
too.
named him. It's probably you can rename them. So I probably named him my like go-to name for the longest
likely.
time.
But what would he do for his mom? That's a perfect answer. What would he do for his mom?
He would build like a little vacation home for her. Obviously picking it in her like favorite biome, and like with the scenery that she likes and stuff, with all of the interior decor. He would probably have to delve into like multiple dungeons to get all the resources for it, but like for your mom, I think that's worth it. Tone, what do you think?
Yeah, I was going to highlight, if you were just going to talk about the building part, like he would also risk his own life into treacherously dangerous dark spaces underground. Who knows what kind of threats he will meet, and he will fight his way through these dungeons to collect the materials needed to build the perfect abode for his mom. That's what he would do.
Nice.
Yep.
I think, by the way, to answer your other answer, I'm just briefly scrolling through the Star Ocean fandom wiki here.
Yeah.
And getting a little bit more about Claude. I mean, he's like your soldier boy who lives in the shadow of his father, but like he always wants to do what's right and good and stuff. So I'm going to piece that together and assume that he has a good, had a good mom. So he probably would do a lot. He probably would do whatever was in his power for his mom. So like blow his like month salary on like taking her to whatever like star cruiser they have, right? Like if they have like, I'm assuming they have like star barges or something for like leisure. I bet he would take his mom on like a star cruise. That's what I'm gonna say. Yeah.
Okay.
So there we go. There's an answer for someone who has never played the game before and literally just browsed the wiki in like 30 seconds. Her name was Ilya, though. Ilya Kenny.
Yep.
Boom.
I see Ilya Silvestri. Claude Kenny and Ronix Kenny are husband son. Yeah, look at that. Yep. So her last name is Silvestri.
Nice.
There's a lot of details about this. We could really spend an entire episode just talking about that.
I mean, like looking at the screenshots, it does look like a classic JRPG. I'm kind of
it's awesome.
Like, man,
I love Star Ocean. Yeah,
like Star Ocean. I really want to play it. My like go to non Square Enix JRPG aside from Persona would probably be like
Skies of Arcadia.
That's the one. And gosh,
I know you too well.
I need to go back. I just because I had like hooked up and everything, so I started it and I was having a good time with it, but I just other things got in the way. So maybe during my long drought here, I'll fire it back up amongst all the other millions of things I want to do. So cool. All right. Well, that is a nice good time to like look at. We're crushing this episode time wise. So that is DLC. Let us hear what if you want to pick a video game character and tell us what they would do for their mother on Mother's Day, we want to hear that. Termite told you all the places you can engage with us on social media and check out our live streams. The quick, dirty version is all of the places: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, blah, blah, blah. All of it's just 80bit pod smash, no hyphens or special characters or capital letters. Just
or funny business.
It in and you'll find us. Or
when's the last time we said that?
I know. It's been a while. I thought I assumed you say it every time. Whenever you do that, not gonna lie, I kind of just turn my brain off for a second, collect my thoughts, and then
take a break.
Do it.
Yeah, why not?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I've assumed you said it this time.
No, I haven't said funny business in forever. Our audience didn't even know.
And then check all of the Discord, like all of the places where like we do like live stuff. You know, whether it's chatting with us live on Discord, we have like links to that in our show notes on the website. We should put like Discord links up on all of our social medias too, so like if we haven't already, they can go to Facebook and find the link there as well. So I'll
There's
talk
character
to you about
limit
that
on
also.
Twitter stops me from that part, but Facebook I could probably do.
Yeah, Facebook and Instagram, maybe Instagram. I don't know. Either way, maybe the Instagram link could be. Never mind, that sounds too complicated. And then
Yep.
the last thing I was gonna say is, go to our Twitch channel and check out the live streams that we do once a month, playing video games and talking about them. So those are on the last Wednesday of every month is when we kind of have been doing them and plan to keep doing them at that cadence. So. Okay, awesome. Then we can begin talking about the Game Boy Advance. That is our
The
topic
Game Boy
tonight.
Advance.
Sold in the console, Game Boy Advance. Talk about this thing. We always break this up into chunks, predictable chunks. We're going to talk about the history. How did this console come to be? What sparked Nintendo to make this console this way? We'll talk about the hardware. What is this? Like from a hardware perspective. We'll talk about its controller and other innovations, and then the games and attachments and stuff. So, and its impact, of course. We'll finally talk about what impact this thing had on video gaming world. You ready to go? Let's talk about history. How this thing come to be?
Let's do it. So I am taking all of my information, and the whole inspiration of the series is from a book by Evan Amos called The Game Console. He has 2 versions out there, and I'm reading from 2.0, which is the newer revision of it. But it took 12 years for Nintendo to create a true successor to its massively popular Game Boy handheld console, which this Game Boy Advance was released in 2001. It improved on the original Game Boy with a 32-bit processor, new shoulder buttons, and a larger color screen. With an impressive game library, it had strong third-party support and first-party titles, and it sold 80 million units in 6 years. One major flaw, however, was its non-backlit LCD, which we'll talk about later. So there's not a whole bunch of history going on with the Game Boy Advance, other than it was just the successor to the Game Boy in 2001. So this was around the same year the GameCube launched. So after the success of N64, the Game Boy Color had come out in 1998. So it had been 3 years, and
this was basically within within a couple months, it looks like, if not a month. But at the Nintendo Space World Trade Show in late August of 1999, there was rumors of a Game Boy, an advanced Game Boy, AGB in development. And then in September 1st, 1 month, less than a month later, I think, they would officially announce it as the Game Boy Advance. But it looks like the previous Game Boy models, this is interesting because this is sort of like a different way, I think, of basically, I'm not saying that they came up with the idea of, quote, widescreen, but it looks like the Gunpei Yokoi designed the original Game Boy in portrait form factor. You'd recognize that from like printing in portrait mode.
Yep.
And then the designers of the Game Boy Advance decided to do a landscape form factor, which would be, I guess, a precursor to what we would now call widescreen. And it was designed, the form factor was designed by a French guy named, and I'm going to butcher this, I am so sorry, Guanael Nicolas, and his Tokyo-based design studio, Curiosity Incorporated. So it's interesting. I didn't know it was designed by a French guy who like operates out of Tokyo.
Interesting. I didn't either.
Right? A little interesting stuff.
And it's cool because the buttons of the traditional Game Boy were below the screen, and now the buttons have been moved up to the left and right of the screen. So you hold it and it's wide instead of tall.
Right. I mean, like it is the Switch, right? That's the form factor effectively that the Switch would eventually, right? They haven't changed much in right. That was like, the biggest innovation, but like that would be the start of the rest of handheld technology for the next 20 years. So
yeah. A little cool tidbit, its code name was Project Atlantis, which is kind of fun. Nintendo's always had like code names thrown out there.
Yeah.
And it was backwards compatible for Game Boy and Game Boy Color games, which is cool.
Yeah, that's right. I played. So we'll probably talk about the whole line of like versions of it, but I had an SP.
Yeah, we'll get there.
And I still, like I still do sometimes play my Game Boy games through the SP. So
yeah, I love my Game Boy Advances. I have several of them now.
Cool.
That I've
all right. Well,
over the years.
Short history, no crazy drama. Just
there wasn't one. Yeah.
Tidbits. Yep. Yeah, it really is like, some of these things we've talked about are like, there's like, the whole project almost got killed by such and such. And this one's just like, nope, the Game Boy was successful. And they're like, let's follow it up with new tech. And there we are. So that is elegant as it can be. So speaking of upgraded hardware. What is this little handheld box? What does it contain?
It has a 16.8 megahertz ARM 7 TDMI processor, so not crazy powerful at all. It has a screen resolution of 240 by 160. It has 32 kilobytes of RAM and a 256K RAM, like together. I guess there's two separate pools to pull from. And there's 96K kilobytes of VRAM, and that's about it. I guess it had sound, had a dual 8-bit DAC for stereo sound, also called direct sound, plus all legacy channels from Game Boy. And the DACs can be used to play back streams of wave data, which is a whole like sound computational thing. So I don't really know a whole lot about that, but yeah.
I'll note here that the original Game Boy Advance did use two AA batteries, but the SP, I know for sure, would use a charging port.
Yep.
So
yeah,
to me, it's kind of crazy that, like, I don't know, whenever the SP came out in like 2005 or whatever, it it already kind of has one up on Xbox. Xbox still doesn't have a charging cable for their
for the controllers.
For the controllers,
you have to buy
exactly.
the battery separately,
right? Which is the handheld
them.
part, right? Like, it's of course
Yeah.
a home console is going to have an AC adapter, but the or DC adapter, I suppose, is what it is. But yeah, I just find it funny that, like, yep, even Nintendo got this right on their effing handhelds before Xbox would get it on their controllers. So crazy. All right, cool. Well, then that's hardware. Not really much to note here. I hope this episode isn't like, okay, cool. Well, we're 40 minutes in, so no, I think we got. So normally on these, so for the consoles, we talk about the controller, and the controller is the form factor on the handheld line. So that's kind of the obviously going to be a repeating theme here. But things still change in the form factor. So what were the big changes to the controller, to the form factor, the button layout and stuff that were notable?
We just talked about the buttons being moved up next to the screen, so the screen is in the middle instead of above the player's fingers. They have a standard D-pad, up, down, left, right, 8-way with the diagonals, start and select are all on the left side, and they have A and B on the right side at an angle, kind of like what Super Nintendo was doing if you were to take two of the buttons away. And then we had shoulder buttons. So that was the biggest like new thing for Game Boy specifically, was because the original Game Boy, Game Boy Pocket, and Game Boy Color did not have shoulder buttons. So now there's two new buttons with which to do cool stuff with. So that's kind of, yeah, this really is like a no frills iteration on Game Boy. Like,
yeah, the form factor I found also notable in this section, right? In the sense that, like, the original Game Boy Advance, I feel like it being wider and kind of having it may not have been the most comfortable iteration of a controller they would eventually design, but it was more comfortable for sure to hold than the original Game Boy.
Yep.
And the original color too, the indigo, the indigo color to match the GameCube, like that.
Yeah,
I know it's not a big deal, but like notable because there was cross compatibility between the two systems. And so, you know, Nintendo, again, we're going to hit on this later, I'm sure, but like Nintendo is already thinking ahead on the very line of thought, the through line that would be what we get as the Switch now, right? Like this idea of merging the handheld with their home system and it being a single unified entertainment platform effectively. You know, it was not nearly done as well as it would eventually be, but this is, you know, it's just little things like that that make it like they're telegraphing their next move, right? Or their eventual next move. So I guess we can move on to, do you want to talk? I think I always feel like I never switch these two but we should talk about the attachments now, right? After talking about the form factor.
We can do that. Sure, yeah.
Yeah. So
there's
let's talk
a whole
about
bunch
the
of attachments, yeah.
And then also, this is a good place to talk about the other versions, right? The other flavors of Game Boy Advance and the some of the changes or reversions that may have happened with those.
So the first thing I'll talk about, because you already mentioned it, was the connection to GameCube. There was a cable
link
that
cable.
had
I still have
that latched onto the Game Boy Advance on one side through its link cable port, and then on the other end it was the GameCube controller connection. You just plug it right into your GameCube, and there was all kind of cool features that some GameCube games used. For example, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles was required to have a Game Boy Advance. I think it was actually bundled with the cable so that you could play it right out of the box if you already had a Game Boy Advance. And it used that entire Game Boy Advance as the controller with its screen on there. So you're using two screens So yet another precursor to what Nintendo's direction was headed was
Right, that
because
was like the wrong direction though, right? Like that was like the Wii U where you're well, and the DS too, I guess, where you have
it's a
the
hint
two
at the
screens. Yeah,
DS. That's exactly what it
it's
was.
both
The
though.
dual
The
screen.
Wii U did the same thing. So Nintendo's,
Right.
kind of trying to get the like we want you to look at two screens, and the player's like, please don't make us look at two screens. But I remember Wind Waker even had like the player in the Game Boy could play Tingle.
Yeah. Yep.
But you could be Tingle flying around in your balloon, dropping bombs on stuff while the person in the game was sailing the boat.
Mm-hmm.
So that was again, it's imperfect and very unelegant, but it was brand new at the time, and definitely. Although I'm now believing that, like, aside from like the GameCube being a less popular console, I guarantee you that the Game Boy Advance requirement for Crystal Chronicles is why that game was, like, unfortunately not as popular as it could have been.
Yeah, probably because it did require the Game Boy. Yeah,
exactly. Yep.
It's one thing for like the game to have a feature to do that, but it's a whole other thing for it to be required.
Like you cannot play this game if you don't own this also expensive piece of our hardware. Granted, there was a lot of overlap, and they were banking on that overlap.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't imagine being a kid being like, not realizing that, like, yay, I got my Christmas present, this game that I wanted. Oh, cool! It comes with a cable that I need to hook to my.
Yeah.
I guarantee you that happened somewhere in the world, and
Probably.
some ticked off dad ended up at GameStop on December 27th.
Black Friday?
Or December 26th.
Or the day after Christmas. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I can't believe you sold this to me.
Yep. But yeah, I think it's interesting. The reason why I like continue to talk about this connection to GameCube and two screens, the successor to the Game Boy, which we'll get to in our, I guess, future episode of Soul and Console, was the Nintendo DS. And the Nintendo DS, as of September 2021, the entire family of Nintendo DS, 3DS, and the millions of console variations total the second best selling console of all time. So PlayStation 2 is sitting at the best at 157 million, and all of Nintendo DS consoles is 154 million. Game Boy's in third, which is part of what we're talking about tonight, and that's 118 million. So extremely successful platform here, and we're seeing the very, very, very early stages, the embryo, if you will, of what will ultimately become the Nintendo Switch. Because if you go from the Game Boy connected to a GameCube, and you advance to the DS, and you advance to the Wii U, and then you take the Wii U, the idea of playing off of the screen and taking it with you out of the house, you have the Switch. So I think it's fascinating to see that throughput.
Yeah, absolutely, right? And it kind of takes you to do a series like this, right, where you're actually intending to pay attention to it, or you're already a smart like game historian and do this for a living. But like, yeah, that's like the through line to all of those things is integrating remote play with in-home play, right? Or integrating the handheld with the home console. And yes, the Switch is sort of the perfection of that. And yet, like, I applaud them for trying. I applaud them for having that vision and carrying it through for 20 something years. Like, that's remarkable that they knew that's what they wanted to do, but just the tech was behind them. And now with microprocessors and all the crazy precision engineering we're capable of, like, the Switch is a reality. And so it's Nintendo just so forward thinking and also committed to that vision. Cool. All right. Other interesting.
Yeah, we got more here. Speaking of forward thinking and being able to take gaming on the go, they had a wireless connectivity adapter added that came bundled with Fire Red and Leaf Green, the remakes of Red and Blue from Pokemon. Those wireless adapters allowed the Game Boy Advances to communicate wirelessly. So what was a link cable can now be wireless transmission. And so that was part of, again, forward thinking, like, now we have Wi-Fi and we have internet connected things, and the Nintendo DS utilized Wi-Fi. The GameCube had a modem. You could plug it in. It wasn't wireless, but it was at least connected to the internet, and there was features, functionality, kind of like this whole idea of being able to connect with others, play together. They continued to push that narrative even back with the Super Nintendo, and there was the satellite link connection in the Japanese version of the Famicom, but Super Famicom, we won't go there. But, so that was cool. And then there was the attachment that is kind of the precursor to Amiibo, which is the e-reader. And the e-reader was a little card reader, and Nintendo had a ton of promotions across all of its various franchises, releasing these little cards that you could scan in sequence and create mini games, or you could add content to a game through scanning a card. I have one. It's kind of cool, but it is gimmicky. It wasn't supported very well. And I believe there was I got a ton of Pokemon stuff that was like is rare now. So like there's Pokemon cards that have the e-reader markings on the side that you can swipe in and you can get Pokemon added to your Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald versions. Yeah, so that was kind of cool. I don't know. Do you ever have any experience with the e-reader? Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
No, I don't know. I had the link cable to the GameCube, and that's about it. I didn't have any of that other stuff. Apparently, there was also some other like little things called interesting things here. There was a Play Yan. I don't know if that ever came out in. It was released originally in Japan only, but was released in Europe. It does not look like it ever, never was released in North America. But this thing would play MP3 players. Like, it was an MP3 player that you'd attach to
Oh, neat.
the thing. So again,
Oh
like
yeah, there it is. It had an
Nintendo
SD card
thinking,
slot on it. Yeah.
yeah, they're thinking, hey, people are gonna want to take this thing around, listen to music. They would do that on the Switch, right? Like, there's also a not e-reader. There's a Game Boy Advance video. There were cartridges that you could play cartoons on. Dragon Ball GT, Pokemon, SpongeBob were among some of that. So, like, people, the iPhone wouldn't come out for another 8 years, 6 years, something like that, 6 to 8 years or whatever. And that's when you could start like watching TV shows on your phone.
Yeah.
So Nintendo again, like just ahead of the curve and just like understanding what people want. The fact that Nintendo is not more successful is baffling to me. It speaks to, I think, for as much as Nintendo is so forward thinking and so brilliant in general, I often complain here about Nintendo's missteps. And I think that like Nintendo should be where Apple is right now, where Microsoft is, because of just how, again, prescient they are. And yet they aren't, because they are also so full of stupid ideas, right? That they can't seem to ever get right. And it's like, I think it speaks volumes to Nintendo's missteps that they can have such forward thinking ideas and yet fail to deliver on them in a way that is meaningful beyond their actual meaningful contributions to technology, if that makes sense. So it's like, I'm not denying Nintendo's contributions, but I'm saying is like the ideas that they have are so good, and yet they don't seem to be able to bring them together in time to beat other people who bring them together first, right? It's just crazy. So awesome.
Yeah, and I actually finished, and it was maybe a favorite thing, but it got bumped by comic books. I just finished reading Disrupting the Game from Reggie Fils-Aimé. It's a book he just dropped like last week, and he talks all about his experience at Nintendo. And I think part of the insight that I see there is the fact that Nintendo operated in 3 different silos for so long. That's Nintendo of America, Nintendo of like the Europe, and then the Japanese Asian market. So like those 3 entities were all like, they had one Japanese person at the head of each one that would then go back to the Japanese executive. And so like Reggie talks ad nauseum in this book about his constant having to provide insight to what Americans like. It's not like Japan, but he also needs to learn what Japanese culture was like and understand how to approach. It's more of like a leadership book. So there's a ton of businessy conversations from the executive level. If you care about any of that at all, I found it fascinating. But I think that is exactly what hamstrung Nintendo even to today, because like Sony knew what they were doing and they were the best out the gate, and then Microsoft started to gain ground on them because they knew what they were doing and they had a single vision. And so Nintendo seems to be splintered and also handicapped by an extreme desire for perfection and quality. And that slows everything down because of their quality assurance processes, but we get quality products, which is awesome. So
Nintendo
payoff.
Yeah, it's fascinating though, because like at the same time, Sony's advantage is, for whatever reason, they have people at Sony who understand the Western market enough to know what to do with it, right? Sony might be the only, but they also are Japanese, so of course they understand their own market, Japanese market. Sony is like almost the perfect fusion of Nintendo and Microsoft for that reason, then, because Microsoft struggles so hard to reach the Japanese market. Like Microsoft, the Xbox is super popular in the West, but not in Japan. So Sony really does nail that balance. But we're not talking about Sony, we're talking about Nintendo. So cool. Let's talk really quick about the other versions, the flavors. Obviously, we've already hit on the SP that would come out, I believe, in 2003. And its big innovation. It did change the form factor to look more like a flip phone.
Mm-hmm.
which was innovative in its own right. The other, obviously, the biggest addition it made was the backlit screen.
Yes.
Finally, you no longer have
Yes.
to shine a light. You can play your Game Boy Advance in the car, and your dad will yell at you, "Turn off that damn light because I can't see behind." Rah, 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 rah. At least that was my dad. I don't know about your dad. I will say
No.
I will complain about the form factor. Of course, it then reverted back to having the buttons beneath the screen and have that awful blocky portrait-like design.
Yeah.
But it had the flip functionality, so that was all
The
the rage back
rechargeable
in
battery.
2003.
That was a game
Rechargeable
changer.
battery. You're
Yeah.
right. Rechargeable battery, LCD screen, and it was flip phones were all the rage back then too. So like just coming out.
Yep.
So it was very much it was.
And
a cool
I
it
was
was a cool
so fanatic about scratching my screen. Like I took every precaution in the world to not scratch my screen. And the Game Boy Advance has this big gaping screen in the middle, so it never could go in my pocket. It could never go in my backpack. It was always exposed all the time. So I had to take all these extra care. It was a pain. The SP folds into itself. The screen is
and I'm
protected.
sorry, the SP
You just
didn't have
close
a
it.
backlight.
It
Right?
did.
It was only there was a backlit model. There was two models of the game.
Well,
I
there
didn't
was a
realize
second
that.
model that improved the brightness of the backlit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
The
But they were
original
both
Game Boy
backlit. Never
Advance
mind.
SP,
Understood.
like the 001, definitely had a backlit screen and a lithium ion
Cool. Got it.
battery. Yeah.
Got it.
Yep.
And then the other big the other one 2005 they would do a like a Game Boy Micro, and
Mhm.
it was just a much smaller version, back to the horizontal orientation.
That's what I was playing on, by the way,
like
when
a
we started.
bow tie, like a
a little bow
an
tie.
hourglass almost,
Mhm.
shape. So
Oh, it's a fun little system that actually has a different charging port than the DS. So the Game Boy Micro came out right when the DS was like about to release, and the SPs had already flooded the market with a rechargeable battery. So this thing has like a proprietary charging port. So you need another cable that doesn't work with anything else, and it's just weird and obtuse. And the screen is really, really tiny, and it's really hard to hold. So it's like not comfortable at all. And yeah, Reggie writes in his book that like he wasn't really consulted with this, and he would have given all of the feedback about like this is a terrible idea. Like everything about R&D and manufacturing and fabrication of this thing. And sure enough, it was a complete failure. Like they just dropped it.
yeah.
So there's very few of them out there.
Didn't even know about it.
Yeah. So
Crazy.
the Game Boy Micro, if you find one, just grab it. They're extremely expensive and they're like collector's items now and worth money, and because there's not a lot out there in the world.
Yeah. Cool. All right, well, now let's talk about games. What were the definitive games on this thing? What do you think of when you think of the Game Boy Advance?
Well, so many games.
Golden Sun. I take Golden Sun.
Yeah.
Golden
Yeah,
Sun.
you can totally.
That's
It's on my
like
list.
the only one. I still have a copy of it because it's the only Game Boy Advance game that I really cared about. Other than, of course, playing my Game Boy games on it, which I did ad nauseum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the processing power allowed the Game Boy Advance to kind of have Super Nintendo 16-bit, 32-bit-ish graphics, but it was better. So it had like better animations and more fluid sound. And so I'm going to start off my discussion here with the Super Mario Advance set of games. There was 4 of them, and they were all ports of Mario 1, 2, 3, and Super Mario World. And they're all better. They're the best versions of these games. Way better sound, way better animations. Except for Yoshi's Island. Yoshi's Island, the best is still Super Nintendo. But Super Mario Advance games were awesome. I loved them. They had like voice added to some of the characters and some crazy animations, extra little features and like Easter eggs and stuff. Perfect like side-scrolling Mario experiences on the Game Boy Advance because it's portable. Have you played any of these games that are on my list?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, Golden Sun 1.
Right, it's what you started with.
I don't think I
There's so many, so many good games. There was Zelda, of course. Its representation had both the port of the Link to the Past, which is arguably the best Zelda game ever, but also its own original entry into the Zelda franchise, Minish Cap, which is so overlooked. It is absolutely incredible. Zelda Minish Cap is awesome.
I think I played Four Swords.
Four Swords was like an add-on to Link to the Past. So if you had a copy of Link to the Past and some friends, you could link up your Game Boy Advances and play together. But there's also a GameCube version, Four Sword Adventures, that requires the Game Boy Advance as a controller linked up. So are you thinking about that maybe?
I don't know. You listed Four Swords.
Yeah, because Four Swords is unique to Game Boy Advance. It was an add-on to Link to the Past, but you couldn't buy it standalone. So that's why, I don't know why.
I got you.
Of course, there was Metroid, both Zero Mission, which was a full remake of the NES version, and it's absolutely incredible. In fact, the website I gleaned some ideas from rated Metroid Zero Mission as the single best Game Boy Advance game of all of them. And then there's Metroid Fusion, which is the sequel to Super Metroid. Amazing. So side-scrolling Metroid, and it was unique. They stripped Samus of her armor. It had an entire different twist and bend with like this parasite that would infect her, and it added Samus becomes kind of this awesome like space god, like all these missiles and all these power-ups, and just goes after big bosses and stuff. But Metroid Fusion started her like stripped down to the Zero Suit armor that you see in Smash Bros. So she had nothing, and you had to be like so careful, which just added to the psyche of already being alone and dark, and you had all the same traits that like Super Metroid would have, where you just have this fear and loneliness and depression. But now it's like, now you're gutted. So you're defeated. It's awesome. There was also the kind of spiritual successor to Super Mario RPG called Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, and that continued on into a new franchise into the DS series. And of course, all of Pokemon Gen 3, Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, the remakes of Red and Blue, Fire Red and Leaf Green, and there was an entire new line of Mega Man games added to Game Boy Advance called Mega Man Zero. So if you've heard of Mega Man, Mega Man X, well, there's another series of Mega Man out there called Zero, and they're ridiculously hard, and you can get a collection of them on modern consoles today. But you play a Zero with his sword and Buster and upgrades and stuff. It's there. So yeah, those are kind of the definitive list of games. If I've skipped your favorite, I mean, there's a Mario Kart on there that I was just playing tonight before we started recording. That's one of my favorite Mario Karts, so it ranks up there. So lots and lots of definitive games. There was a Final Fantasy Tactics sequel, which is awesome. Not as good as the first one, but it's really good.
Yeah, I was at the age, I guess, where I wasn't actually interested in getting many new games, and considering I had a GameCube as well and would rather have asked for games on the GameCube, I was like, this is one of the few times in my life where I was just genuinely content to play my Game Boy games in color.
Yeah.
Like in like brighter colors on the Game Boy Advance SP.
Was that your first time playing the Game Boy games in color?
I think I had a Game Boy Color, but like the back, especially when I got my I didn't get the original Game Boy Advance, so I jumped right from the Game Boy Color to the SP. I was like,
ooh, yeah,
backlit screen. So I was literally just playing my Game Boy games and was like as content as could be. Still loved the system, but ironically, I didn't actually play very many Game Boy Advance games on it. So whatever. Interesting.
Yeah, we had a Game Boy Color on Super Nintendo, which added all of the colors for like the OG Game Boy games on our TV, which was awesome. So like that wasn't new to me. And then I did get a Game Boy Color, and I played all my Game Boy games on that, but it didn't have a backlit screen either. So I guess I didn't spend a lot of time playing old Game Boy games on my Advance. This was also the time of my life when I had a job and my own income, and I was foolish and young and spent all of my money like a moron, and I was buying stuff left and right. So like I have so many Game Boy Advance games and GameCube games because I would just blow every paycheck the moment I got it. Yeah, that was me.
You're supposed to waste your money when you're young and dumb. So
no, you're supposed to put it away for college, for supplementary savings, to down payment on a house, to buy a car. Like set yourself up.
No, because then you're going to be the kind of person. You're going to be the kind of adult that does that. You're going to be the kind of adult that was a kid thinking about down payments on houses and mortgages and 401ks and nobody wants to be friends with that kid. And nobody wants to be friends with the adult that was that kid. I am sorry.
I guess that's why I have a lot of friends, because I was not
exactly,
that kid.
Because you were not that kid. You blew all your money on Game Boy Advance games, and now you're the adult.
Fast food.
Now you're the adult that has a wall full of Game Boy Advance games. That's a cool person to be friends with. That's what I'm saying. You have the down payment. You have the house. You're paying the mortgage. You've got the 401k. You're fine.
Yeah,
you turned out fine.
I did.
You don't care. No one cares that you didn't have the forethought and the soul. You acquired the soul of a child, and that makes you a more interesting adult. So don't beat yourself up about it. And if you're young and dumb, continue being young and dumb. Don't listen to us old farts, because we don't know what we're talking about most things. Listen, that's what adulthood is. Adulthood is just being stupid and stumbling your way through life. I
agree.
Day.
You never really feel like an adult. Like I still look at like stuff. I'm like, I'm not an adult.
Yeah, you're a parent. You have children of your own and still feel like a child. Each day that you are alive, recognizably, you are just lucky enough to have like stumbled through the last day and maybe pulled it off.
Side rant.
People who think that they are like awesome and have like killed it in life are just they're not don't believe them. They're fools, because the next catastrophe is just waiting around the corner for them, because all of us are just like stupid little monkey people flying through space on a rock that is just like teetering on the edge. All is chaos, and chaos is all. So that's my philosophy for the day. So none of us are as smart or as great as we think we are, is all I'm saying.
I was going to relate a little bit to that and just say that like we fell into the Dave Ramsey camp, and I was going to go on a rant a little bit about how bad that was for very young married couples with no kids and double income, and how like problematic it would have been if we would have listened to Dave Ramsey and did the whole like become debt free and put down enough money on a house that you only need a 10-year loan, and you have all of your retirements maxed out, and you have term life insurance, and you have all this stuff, and then you invest everything else, and your money starts making more money than you can. By the time we would have done that, we'd have had kids, and we would have entirely missed out on like the young married free like experience, which is terrible. So I'm glad that we decided not to follow Dave Ramsey. Just saying that, throwing that out there right now.
That's fine.
We lived our life double income. Like, it was awesome.
Those who are following Dave Ramsey, like, he's got good ideas, right? So it's not.
He does, and we actually are debt free. Like we've kept that paradigm. So
that's
like,
probably the single greatest contribution that he makes to
exactly.
Like, anything.
Yes, stay out of consumer debt, folks. It's bad.
Debt is just willful chains, right? Now obviously mortgages and car payments are like debt you have to kind of take on,
right,
to survive.
School
in the
loans
world.
too.
But other than that, just get out of
like staying away from consumer debt was probably the largest golden nugget I ever got from Dave Ramsey's program. Anyway, so money
about
Game Boy Advance.
Game Boys. What's the impact? We've already hit on some of this stuff, but let's end here, of course, as we always do. Let's wrap it up with a nice bow. Impact and legacy of this thing. I mean, like I said, or like we've hit on multiple times now, just this was Nintendo templating and prototyping their vision. Not done super elegantly or even excellently. It has its foibles and its stumbles, but in hindsight, you can appreciate them. Again, this thing came out in 2001, so 20 years of the same vision of trying to incorporate their two major technologies. That's dedication, yo. You would think like, hey, this doesn't work. Eventually, let's try to pivot into one or the other. But nope, they're like, no, we have both. We're gonna make it work, and they did. So
you did. I will push back. You said not elegantly. I will push back only that the quality of the Game Boy Advance and the SP were spot on. Hardware failures were like non-existent. The battery life was insane. Yeah. Like they did a great job with what they presented.
No. The individual systems, of course, and the GameCube was a great system too. It's the integration of the two was done inelegantly, is what I meant.
Wii U is what you're saying.
I mean the Game Boy Advance's integration with the GameCube was.
Oh, that. Yeah. I got you. Right. Yeah.
Pointless and sucked, right?
Right. It was gimmicky. Yeah. Exactly, it was gimmicky. Yeah. That's what that was. Yeah, for sure. No, the lasting impact of the handheld dominance of Nintendo, like even Sony, who has way more money and experience in the gaming, well, I wouldn't say experience, but way more money and way more popularity at the time, tried to jump into the portable space with the PSP, which was kind of a portable PlayStation 2 powered thing. Yeah. And they got destroyed. And then they came out with yet another console, the PlayStation Vita. And because of their lack of quality and control comparison to Nintendo, I mean, the Vita is awesome. I love my Vita, so I play it all the time. But that was the system that allowed the great PlayStation Network failure of 2010, 2009, whatever year that was, because there was hacking involved from the Vita through the PlayStation 3 into the PlayStation Network, and that's when everyone's information got stolen, and Sony had to shut down their entire network infrastructure for months, which was catastrophic to them. So, and then the Vita continued to limp along, and like they canceled it and shut it down, and now it's failure. But it just shows the testament of what Nintendo's doing with the handheld market. They know their market, they know the gaming experience, they know the gamers, and they know what we want. And Game Boy Advance is just yet another iteration in that line from Game Boy, Game Boy Color, on through the DS and to today with the Nintendo Switch. And its lasting impact is we have the Nintendo Switch. So there's that. That's pretty much,
I think
talk
that's
about
it.
like impact and legacy. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it's just like Nintendo's vision has now proven that it works in a way. I mean, the Game Boy Advance was already a successful console, and it had this nugget of a vision that now has been proven to be a concept that works. So I'm very excited about the successor to the Switch, because Nintendo has clearly shown dedication to this vision enough to bring it to reality, and so I can only imagine that will guarantee, like, not guarantee, but it will. If they're committed to this vision for 20 years, then you bet they're committed to this vision for 50 years, right? So whatever the next version of the Switch is going to be great.
That's what's so fascinating is like, as we being you and me in our generation, I was in high school when the Game Boy Advance came out. So like, as I was being strung along by Nintendo with the new hardware and excited about each one as if it were a new experience, I didn't have the hindsight to notice that it's iterative in a direction that will culminate into now the Nintendo Switch. So like, when the Switch was first shown off and announced, I didn't immediately go back and think, oh, I was trained for this my whole life. No, my response was, that's amazing and I need that. And the reason why that's amazing and I need that is because they spent 20 years training me to want that. So like, and what's cool is like, whatever comes next, what has the Switch trained us to, want or desire? And Nintendo's doing that work, and they're already at work making the next console. And what's that going to be? And obviously they're not going to leave the Switch behind, because it's way too ingrained and there's way too much software on it. So it's probably going to be backwards compatible, which Nintendo's always done. Like, almost every console, except for like the original cartridge ones, were backwards compatible with the previous one. So the Wii was backwards compatible with GameCube, the Wii U with Wii, and then the Switch came and they stopped it all. So, who knows?
For sure. Awesome. Well, I don't think I could have said it better myself. So I think that's a good place to end. Game Boy Advance, kick a little thing.
Love it.
And
I love the Game Boy Advance.
Great. I mean, just great piece of video gaming history that we want to hear your thoughts on it. Did you have a Game Boy Advance? Did you desire a Game Boy Advance? Could never have it. Do you have like 5? Or do you just not care? Do you hate it? You're like, I hated that thing. I hated its existence. I was a PSP guy all the way. Then we want to hear those thoughts and more. So please share with us from your handheld devices or your home computers or whatever device that you best interact with us or best want to interact with us. Please share your thoughts and more. Termite will remind you.
We know that you have a Game Boy Advance collecting dust in your closet, and you want to send it to Termite because Termite has 3 Game Boy Advances and 3 cables, and desires a set of 4 with 4 cables to connect to the GameCube. And you can find me and all of my contact.
Send it to Penguin, and then I can dangle it in front of him and make him.
Well, you just come over and we can play together. That's fine.
No, I wanted to make you my puppet.
Oh, well. You can find links to all of our social media outlets with which to contact us through and get our contact information. So you can mail me your Game Boy Advance and your GameCube cable over at 80bitpodsmash.com. That's our landing website, 80bit podsmash. We have all those links are there. And you can find our social media, our podcast platforms as well. Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, and our Discord server, our Twitch channel. We have our weekly video game review, that are monthly video game review streams that are now happening on Twitch. So twitch.tv/80bitpodsmash. We are all over the internet. So the only excuse you have for not contacting us is you. Unless we've really messed up, then you need to tell us so we can fix it. But
yes,
let us know. We want your feedback. We want you to be a part of our community and our fun group of friends. And let us know your thoughts, comments, questions, concerns, and ideas.
Huzzah! Well, that's the show. Next week, we're doing something. We are doing
a fun thing. That's a 2-parter.
Fun thing. That is. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, so I talked about this last week. We are doing a 3-parter series that we're doing each, instead of like splitting it up and doing it random weeks. We're gonna. This is like a through line thought, right? We're gonna do a whole series for the month of June, or at least for the first 3 weeks of June. We're gonna be doing a non-gamer series, meaning these episodes are for the non-gamers in your life. These are for your parents who you always wanted to play games with but just aren't, like, they never were into it, they didn't grow up with it. This is for your spouse who just was doing their own thing. Maybe they were a popular kid in school, you were a nerd, but you know, you guys fell in love, star-crossed lovers, all that stuff. But now you're like, I really wish they'd play games with me. This is for your siblings, your friends, your coworkers, who you're like, you would love this game, but they just don't play games. That's what the series is for. And so please, we're doing this because we want to grow our audience, but we really believe that like gaming is for everyone, not just gamers. And so that's what this kind of the theme of these episodes are about. So I'm really excited to launch into it. But yes, so next week we will be talking about reasons to get into gaming. Like, why get into gaming if you're not already a gamer, if you're not already into gaming? What's the point? What's the purpose? Why spend the time doing it? And we're going to talk about all that.
Maybe you're a gamer and you're having an existential crisis about what are you doing with your life, and you just want to be reaffirmed that it's okay, and here's why you're a gamer. And
exactly, that's also
join us.
Yeah, for
yes.
Sure. So, reasons to game. We're going to be talking about that next week. So please join us and bring a friend that doesn't play games right now.
All right. With that, we will see you next week.